Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. My name is Evan. In today's video, I'm going to break down the one and only trade that I took today that made me 18% on QQQ calls. So without further ado, we're going to hop into my screen and I'm going to break down exactly what my thought process was and why I took the trade that I did. So as you can see, we have QQQ pulled up, and on the 1 minute time frame here, I had a larger time frame to draw these out, but we had a bear flag pattern that I was looking for a break towards the downside. So initially, that's what I was looking for going into the day. So I will explain. I did technically take one more trade before this, and I'll explain that. So I technically took two trades on the day, but the first one was completely break even. So it was an absolute waste of a trade. And I'm just going to explain that really quick for you guys, kind of break it down. So the first trade, as you can see, I was looking for the break of this bear flag. So right around this area, right, we came down, we found support here in the morning. I waited, I added up here once we got rejected by the moving average. I added right there, we had one more bounce, right? I held through this, and once we finally broke down below it, I had another add right before that. And then once we finally broke down below it, right, I believe it was the contracts that were that had way too much implied volatility. But essentially, the contract that I added up around this area was I ended up selling at break even at the same contract price even after news came out at 10 a.m. So that trade was a complete bust. I don't even know, like I was looking at the premiums and I don't even know what was happening. Like the price was just not moving at all. It was really disappointing to see because I had a good entry. I had a perfect entry on it. As you can see, I literally entered up here, right, off of this reject, and I sold down here. Not at the exact bottom, but I sold down here. Like, that was a beautiful trade, but the contracts just didn't move. So that being said, we're going to move on to the next trade. That was very frustrating, but that's okay. Once we started to bounce after news, I saw this, I recognized it, and this is one thing that went through my mind. Initially, right, my bias was towards the downside. I wanted to see more downside because we could break this bear flag pattern. Once we broke the bear flag pattern, right, on the news, we had some buyers pushing us up. Before that, right, we had buyers push us up here, here, here. Like, it was so hard for QQQ to be able to move to the downside. It was so difficult for sellers to move us to the downside because of all this chop in here. Just watching, sitting through this price action, I knew that there were more buyers than sellers, and that holding my trade, even though I held it down to here, was it was just a difficult situation to be in, right? So after we got this news and we had this nice wick up, I could see, right, buyers were more so in control. And then we got confirmation, right, with more price action to the upside. And finally, once we had this nice green candle right here and we broke above the 920 and 45, I entered a call right here. We pulled back a little bit. I had my stop loss at a break back below this bear flag trend line right here, right? We found support, began pushing up again. I added another contract. We broke above the moving average, and here my target was 420, which was simply a pre-market level. Resistance, 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 resistance. So 4 touches total, and then we went right up into there, and I ended up getting a perfect sell. So perfect trade right here. Almost zero drawdown whatsoever, maybe a little bit on this candle, but overall, beautiful trade. And I simply changed my bias for the day. It's about being open-minded and following where the market is going and having confidence in it. So normally, right, I, and maybe you, may be thinking, okay, my bias is towards the downside. I want this to break this bear flag. Once it breaks the bear flag, blah, 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 man, whatever. Your overall bias is towards the downside. You want it to move to the downside. But what is the market telling you? The market is telling you that it's trying to move up. The market is telling you that there's more buyers than sellers and it's trying to move up. You can tell that by all of these wicks right here, this wick right here, all of it, right? Just by the price action alone, you can tell that buyers are trying to buy or are trying to push this thing up. Sellers are not strong enough to move it down, right? So once we got that confirmation, I decided to throw away my downside bias, right? And take a chance on the upside. And look what happened. I got paid. Simple as that, right? As soon as I erased my bias, then I wasn't sitting out during the trade, because normally what will happen is if I see a bounce like this, I'm not going to take it because my bias is towards the downside. So why would I take an upside trade, right? Completely erase that from your thought process and think, where is the market headed? where are buyers or sellers pushing the market? And in this case, they were pushing it up. And we simply went up, hit the profit target, and I got out, and that was it. But you have to be able to follow exactly where the market is telling you it wants to go, right? It wanted to go up, right? We tried to sell off. Look at this huge wick. We tried to sell off down here during news, and we couldn't. And then we ended up pushing up, right? Telling us that buyers are more in control than sellers. And then we got in contracts and we took the risk towards the upside. And as long as you do that, as long as you follow pretty much where the market's going, it's basically following the trend, even though there isn't necessarily a defined trend here. Once you can understand that and kind of figure out price action in some scenarios like that, then the rest is literally just risk management. My risk management was a break back below this trend line right here. If we would have broke below that, which was also getting supported by the 9 and 20 EMA, if we would have broke below that, boom, I'm out. Just that easy, right? But then it allowed me to catch this upside move just because I threw away my bias for the day and just stayed completely objective to the market. So hopefully that helps you guys out. Hopefully you guys can take from this video, apply it to your own trading, and I will see you guys in the next video.